Okay, we're live with Jack Craig, who was one of our original our builders, and he joined us back in 2022. So I'll let Jack introduce himself.
Hi Cliff, yeah, no, nice to be here. So I started with HourBuilding back in February 2023. So it was about 4 weeks before that. I knew I needed to get some hours done pretty quickly before I started my CPL MEIR in the UK, because all of the rental options in the UK were either too expensive or the weather that wasn't working out for me. So um, contacted Cliff, and within about 3 days, I think, contract signed, money was paid, and I was organising flights to get out to Spain. So went out to Spain, and we started off day one, just a couple of easy flights, you know, 1-2 hours, and then we built it up. So we flew Portimao in Portugal. We did the Gibraltar loop around the rock. Uh, Flew up north to Salamanca and Valladolid, um, and then finished the HourBuilding. Then at the end of the week, I went back to the UK, did my CCL, IR, and come back out and worked with Cliff as a safety pilot. So flying with HourBuilders around Spain. Did a trip to Morocco, um, and yeah, we still do a bit of work moving aircraft around and help build the business. So yeah, no, it's been really good. I work with Ryanair now, so but no, still do single engine stuff in Europe.
Yeah, so I remember back in the day because it was February and the weather in southern Spain is really good. We don't have that many days where we can't fly, but I do remember the trip up to Baidod. I think you say it like that. I always get people take the mickey out of me for the way I say it, but that was the I think it was snow on the mountains, and we had to clear some mountains that are around about 9,000 feet, and we had a bit of carb icing, and that was the again, flying with safety pilots, flying with people that are used to certain environments. Because I remember you do the standard thing when you're flying aircraft on your PPL, where they'll tell you about icing, but you don't really experience it. And because I remember you pulled the carb out, and we had the engine started running rough, and I think you went to push the carb straight back in, which would
Yeah,
have been the right. Well, it's the wrong thing to do because we need to get rid of the water. We need to get rid of the ice, so we have to leave the carb heater on to melt the ice, get the ice through the system. And again, it's one of those things. If low hour pilot, if you'd been on your own, you'd panic. You could have had a situation where you didn't want to pull the carb out again because you had a rough running engine, and then you'd have had an engine stop probably 20, 30 minutes later.
yeah, no, it's the kind of things that you don't get to experience in the UK. That's what makes, I think, flying in Europe so important for somebody that wants to become a better pilot. Because it was only ever something I read in a textbook, and yeah, whenever you pull the carb out and the engine starts running rough, you have that startle as well. So it's good to have somebody next to you that,
Yeah,
you know, you pull the straight back out.
makes your heart flutter when if any time that especially again young and lower pilots, any time when you have one of these exercise things where you do have a rough running engine, it does give you a little bit of a flutter of the heart.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But again, as I say, the reason why we like to push the safety pilot thing is that again today I was with a pilot. We landed in Cordoba, and we picked up some fuel, and I always advise whenever you pick up fuel, whenever you're flying, always do your check and just check your fuel, do your fuel strain. and today we had contaminated fuel. We had fuel with water in it, and so we have to strain it away. If you'd left the water in the tank because you'd just been fueled up and you hadn't checked the fuel, then there's a good chance that you'd had again a rough running engine or a problem with an engine because you've got water in your tank.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It highlights the importance of just having somebody else with you, doesn't it, to make sure that A, you've done the checks, and B, you've done them properly. So yeah, it's something that I would always advocate for anybody going to a different country, anywhere that's got different rules and procedures, to take somebody else with you, even just for the first couple of days until you get used to it, because whenever you've got something else to worry about, you tend to forget something that you wouldn't normally forget about.
Yeah, the other thing again is second eyes, having someone else there just to watch over, because as Jack's worked with us as a safety pilot and things, we're not there to fly the aircraft. We're there just to observe, keep an eye, and if you have any questions, just be there to assist. And the other thing is making decisions as we fly. So we're looking at winds around mountains. We're looking at distances with mountains. We're looking at clouds, storms, and weather checks. And it's as I say, the other thing is a second pair of eyes when you land at a busy airfield where you've got multiple planes flying. Because as I say, some of the airfields that we go to, they've got training aircraft there, and also France, I think, is probably the one where we have the most thing where you have to be sort of spatially aware, because sometimes the French don't like speaking English and will purposely not speak English. I think Jack and myself have both had that experience.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So as I said, so Jack's come the modular route into his career as a first officer with Ryanair, and we are sort of HourBuilding's there to help the modular student through the HourBuilding phase, because as I say, most of our guys, they arrive and we try and push 50 to 100 hours. So 50 hours we do in around about 2 weeks, and 100 hours we do in we say about a month. And like I had a pilot today flying with us, and we did 5.5 hours. I think it was 5.5 hours today. And so for a 50-hour thing with a full service on an aircraft, so if we start with a 50-hour service, so we had clean 50 hours, we can easily achieve 50 hours in 10 days. Now, the pilot that was flying with me today sat there and said 5-6 hours a day is easily achievable, and you don't feel it, because we fly for 3 or 4 hours, we stop, we have lunch, we fuel up, and we fly again. So from your experience, Jack, again, people have commented in comments and stuff around the internet that they believe that flying the hours that we do on a daily basis, they think it's dangerous sometimes, or it's not the right thing to do. What's your view?
Yeah, I completely disagree. I mean, you're going into an industry or into a job where you're going to be flying for 12 hours a day. So to want to fly single engine aircraft for a maximum of like what, an hour and a half, 2 hours, because you think any longer is dangerous. Yeah, it's a bit narrow-minded. I think I definitely felt when I went back to the UK to do my CPL and my IR, where you need that extra capacity, flying for 6-7 hours a day and being focused for 7 hours a day. You then go back to doing lessons that are 60 minutes, 90 minutes long. You find yourself a lot sharper for it, and I think if you can start flying longer sooner in your career, you'll be able to push yourself a little bit more, and you'll build that extra capacity that you need for the rest of your flight training. So Yeah, I mean we've got safety pilots. We've got somebody sat beside you. You can, give them control for 15, 20 minutes to, sit and give yourself a break. There's no, I mean, there's no pressure to do 6 hours a day, but we have the system and the safety nets in place where if you want to do it, you can do it. So.
And so the other thing that we sort of push is to do the long distance point to point. So most of our sort of flights are, the shortest ones are 2 hours, and then we go to the 3 to 4 hours. We put capacity on 4 hours on the aircraft. A lot of our aircraft have an endurance of 5.5 to 6 hours. The reason we put a safety limit on 4 hours is because if you're flying to an airfield, especially in Spain, and the airfield closes for some reason, either an airfield incursion and such like, then on average it's probably an hour maybe to the next airfield. So you need that fuel capacity to do a diversion. And as I said, I think was you with us, Jack, when we did a group flyout, and we landed at Jerez, and I think it was a Bunter aircraft. I think they say it's Bunter. Came in with what they suspected was a battery fire in the hold, and they shut Jerez for, I think it was about 50 minutes to an hour. We were lucky. Yeah, I think we arrived about 20 minutes before that emergency. But if we'd been coming in at the time that Bunter was coming in, they would have diverted us to Seville, which is approximately 40 minutes from Jerez.
Yeah. Again, for example, of the sort of safety net that we've built into the operation, isn't it? All it takes is, as you say, 20 minutes later, and we're all going the next 40 minutes, which, if we've got 5.5 hours in that, we only leave ourselves, an extra 40 minutes. And there's nothing to say that Seville isn't going to close either, because all of the aircraft are going to want to go to Seville, Malaga, those sort of airports. So yeah, it can happen. That's why you got to plan really carefully with your fuel.
Yeah, because I say, going back to Jerez, I think maybe a year, 2 years ago, there was an accident at Seville, and a friend of mine is one of the air traffic controllers, and they had to divert every flight from Seville either to Malaga or to Jerez, and Jerez hasn't got the capacity or the systems to take as many aircraft as required that night. And I think it was she was saying that Ryanair were calling bingo most of the time because they weren't carrying enough fuel and had to get in quickly.
Yeah, no comment.
So we'll get to that. But the other thing is on the modular route. So you did the PPL, and so the hardest part, in my view, I think, is doing the exams, the ATPL exams. So what would you suggest to pilots that have passed their PPL, they go in the commercial route on the modular level, so they've got a job to do, and they've also got to do the studying, and they've also got to keep should they keep their flying up, or should they just get on with the exams and then do the HourBuilding once the exams are done?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one because it's a very sort of, it depends on the situation. I know for me, I did the exams in one go, and then I come back flying, but I was still flying in between, but just not very much. It was just enough to keep myself sort of current. And then I came to HourBuilding and did the 53 hours for 10 days, so that bumped me right up. But if you can continue to fly as much as possible during your exams, I think it's good because it keeps your flying skills up. It allows you to apply the knowledge that you're learning, and it means you're not sat at home for 6, 7, 8 months just in a textbook all the time, because it can get quite difficult. And you can burn yourself out quite quickly. So if you can book yourself a flight, once every 2 weeks, you get something to look forward to, then definitely do it. But again, there's nothing wrong with doing the exams in one go if you think you can manage it. head to Spain, France, head to Europe, and do your HourBuilding in 3 weeks, 3-4 weeks. You've finished your ATPL exams in 6 months. You've done your HourBuilding in a month. So there's 7 months, and that's the longest part of the flight training is your exams and your HourBuilding, and you've managed to smash it out in 7 months. So that's where you can cut the time down in your flight training, is just by smashing everything out. But again, there's nothing wrong with mixing the two as well.
And what do you recommend, or what's your view on since the Brexit environment with the EASA and the UK CAA license and things? Because in the old days you only had to take the ATPLs in one go, but now if you want to hold both licenses, you've got to double up on everything.
Yeah, I mean, if you're from the UK and you can only hold a UK passport, I think doing the EASA license is it's only a good idea if you want to go to Ryanair, because they're essentially the only carrier that will take a UK citizen with an EASA license. The problem with that is hiring starting to slow down a bit, the job market's starting to kind of stagnate, so it's a bit of a bold move, I think, to just do an EASA license if you're a UK citizen. But if you're like me and you can hold a British and an Irish passport, then I think doing both is a good idea. If you're just a European citizen, then obviously just do a European license. So, if you can't hold an EU passport, I think just do the UK one, unless you really want to go to Ryanair. If you're European, the answer is pretty simple: just do a European license.
Because I know we keep in touch with quite a few of our HourBuilders, and I know a few of them have gone to BA now, and one went to Loganair. So again, I don't know much about the job market out there, but for the UK guys, I think there is openings up for the UK license holders. And for the Ryanair side of things, so when you went through your selection and training, so what was the mix of like English pilots to European pilots that you've come across?
So, for example, in my typewritten class of 12 of us, 10 of them were Europeans. So there was me and another guy from the UK, and that was it. Ryanair really do need UK pilots with an EASA license. That is something that they are calling out for. But again, I'm not really one to advocate for putting all your eggs in one basket. That's why I'm sort of saying to keep your options open and get a UK license as well, if you can. But yeah, it really surprised me whenever it was me and this one other guy from the UK. Like the UK bases for Ryanair at the minute are filled with European guys that don't want to be here. They all want to go home to Spain and Italy and France, and they can't get home because there's nobody to replace them. So yeah, they're calling up for UK pilots, and I think they're still struggling to get it.
So when the other thing is like for going for the job interviews and stuff, like what would you recommend for, as I say, your steps through the Ryanair environment? Because sometimes say we get the pilots at early doors, and they pretty much come with the attitude that Ryanair is the guaranteed job. All they need to do is put whatever the type rated money on the table, and they're in. What's your impression of that? Is that the reality, or is it a little bit more complex than that?
No, it's a bit more complex than that. I think Ryanair's got a really high standard that they expect in the assessment. Like I know a lot of guys have failed their assessments with Ryanair for really tiny missed details that they haven't prepared for. So it's not as simple as just setting the money on the table and saying, yeah, I'm ready to go. Because if you're not prepared, you're going to really struggle in typing. And one thing that they made us was, like, the typewritten 12 weeks. You're in the simulator for about 5 weeks of that, 5-6 weeks. They don't have time to teach you how to fly in that time period. So you need to be confident, you need to be sharp, you need to know what you're doing. And like even people that are relatively prepared and they maybe let themselves fall off during the type rating, they start to really struggle. And I've seen that as well, like guys that maybe the pressure was getting to them, they were forgetting things that they shouldn't be forgetting. And the instructors are quite tough on that stuff. So, but again, like that's the challenge. You do your ATPL exams, and maybe you don't need to look at that stuff, for 12 months, and then you get a job interview, and you're expected to know all of your ATPL knowledge again. You're expected to be able to explain it in detail, demonstrate it in the simulator, and that's where the challenge is. And also having the right attitude, as you say. I mean, if people are coming, doing their HourBuilding, saying, "Oh, I'll go to Ryanair, I'll give them, the 30,000 that they're looking, and I'll get the job," you've already got the wrong attitude. You're already not going to get the job with that. So, you need to stay prepared, keep reviewing the knowledge that you learn, and have the right attitude, and you'll be fine. But as soon as you let it slip, then you're putting yourself in a bit of trouble. Like.
So, as I said, as a newly appointed pilot now, what was your feeling of your first day when you took control or stepped up those steps to a big plane, and then did the first proper flight in a proper big plane? Was it daunting, or was you all prepared for it, and it was just like a normal everyday? This is just the process.
No, it was absolutely mental. Like you normally used to walking up and turning right and sitting down, and then suddenly you were turning left into the flight deck and plugging your headset in, and like you've spent so long in the simulator where there's like little like animated like ground crew who just stand there still, like Lego men in the simulator, and then you sit down in the real flight deck and look outside, and there's like real ground staff like signaling at you and speaking to you in the radio and stuff. So it is daunting, but to be honest, like they've put the trust in you that you're good enough to pass your exams and all the rest of it, and you've just got to become a bit of a robot again and just go through the procedures that you've learned. And yeah, I mean, once I took off out of East Midlands to go up to Prestwick, and yeah, it was just crazy. I think the first like 10 minutes was just a complete blur, and then I looked outside, and then everything started to slow down again. But yeah, it's you can't describe it. It's very, very strange. Like setting takeoff thrust in an empty 737 for the first time, and it just rockets off the runway. But yeah, no, it was cool. But at the time, complete blur.
So have you flown a single since you've been flying the 737 then?
No, not yet.
So
it's going to be a bit slower.
Yeah, I was going to say you're in for a bit of a shock because you've got a few days off because you fly Prestwick to Alicante, so you got a few weeks or a few days off or a stopover in Alicante at some point. Cause,
so I fly to Alicante again on Friday, and then flying again next week, and then I'm in Alicante for a week. So I'm flying. Ryanair sending me there for 4 or 5 days. To do some flying out there, which I'm looking forward to. So yeah, that's kind of the reality of line training at the moment in Ryanair. Is if you're from the UK and you join Ryanair, you're probably going to do quite a lot of your flying in Europe anyway, because that's where they have the availability for you to fly. So.
Now what we'll do is we'll take a plane up to Muchimel, one of the little ones, and you can have a go on that.
Yeah, no, that'll do.
And see what the difference is. Okay, so as I said, so you've gone from 0 to hero, and that took you how long roughly?
If you take into consideration the CPL, I think it took about 3.5 years. 3.5, 4 years. Started just before COVID, and then got the Ryanair gig. What was it? Last May.
And sort of ballpark, how much do you think that cost for again going? Because it's again, it's one of those things because back in my day, let's say I'm in my 50s, so we came from an environment where you applied for a job and you just got a job, and so you got paid, and everything was. You went through assessments, and then the company paid for everything. So if you wanted to be a pilot, you went, signed up, did the assessments, and then went through the factory machine and popped out the other end at no cost to yourself as such. But that's all changed nowadays. And as I say, I've heard figures to say when you go to schools where they take you from zero to all the way to the airlines, they're looking in the 120 plus mark, and then you've got type ratings and all this other costs on top. So ballpark is 150 plus thousand, which is quite a lot of money. So
Yeah, definitely. The industry's definitely changing. I think airlines are realizing that they can get away with charging for type ratings now because cadets are just so desperate for a job. They get to the end of their flight training and they've already spent so much money that they can justify spending a little bit more because that's what it's going to take. I think before COVID, it was just Ryanair were charging, and they were only charging, I think it was like €10,000, and obviously they've tripled that now, so it's sitting around 30. I know if you're from the UK, I don't want to say it wrong. I think it's €5,000 bond, so you just pay the €5,000 for the type rating. But again, I think EasyJet now they're charging something in the region of 35,000 for type ratings, and I can see other airlines have followed suit with that. So the industry's changing; it's getting more expensive, and people need to do their research where they do their training. Some of these integrated schools now are charging, as you say, in like excess of 130,000, and it's just absolutely ludicrous. You can head full for 12 months and get your training done for more than half that. But yeah, I think ballpark it was somewhere between 80 and 85. I think something like that. So a bit more than what I intended, but you know, it's just the reality of it. Sometimes you know, things happen. You have to pay a lot extra for things, and that's just what it is. But the sort of advice I give people going into it now is just do your research. Don't be fooled by these salespeople that are, you know, standing telling you how great the school is, because that's their job to tell you how great it is. You need to dig a little bit deeper, and don't just listen to the negative reviews, because there's always going to be, you know, the odd person that isn't happy with something. And that's just the reality of the industry. No flight school is perfect, no rental company is perfect. But some guys, you know, they put a negative review up, and you know, you don't know the full story behind that. So get the company, speak to them, see if you like what they offer, and then go from there.
yeah, so the internet's a strange little world with the keyboard warriors and things. But one thing that I did find with the change in the industry was, let's say, you pay for your type ratings and things like that. But I know a few years ago, I think it's been banned now, but some of these airlines, especially the smaller ones, were actually selling pilots hours. So there was contracts where the pilot paid an airline for 500 flight hours as a first officer. And I think that got stamped on by the regulators and it got stopped. But and that to me seemed absolutely crazy, that you'd spend all this money, all this time becoming a pilot, spending on, and then you then carry on paying another company just to do the job that you've been qualified for. I don't know if you hear about any of that still going on, or whether that's been.
Yeah, I think there is a certain carrier in Eastern Europe does that. But yeah, I don't think they get much attention. Yeah, it's crazy. You should be at most paying for your type rating, and even, you know, I don't really agree with it, even though I was one of the people that has done it. But yeah, I think to pay for hours at an airline is just that. and you're better off, keeping your licenses valid and going and working in a shop, or getting a better paid job for that, because it's a complete hassle.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing that is the thing is this because how long your license is valid for once you finish training? Because is it 12 months for your MEIR or such like? Because you've got then 12 months. Because say what we do is some of the outbuilders, as soon as they've done their CPL MEIR, we recruit them back into with us and have them as safety pilots, just because they've had the experience of flying with us, so they know the routes, they know what we're about and how we do it, and it also keeps them flying. Even though as a safety pilot you can't log hours, but it's still a job. And also, as well as the safety pilots, we've always got airplanes that we're moving from either Spain to France, France to Spain, or to Morocco or to the UK. So when those jobs come up, we give it to the guys that are still keeping their licenses valid.
Yeah, the IR is valid for 12 months. So I think for all airlines, if you embark on type rating, the IR can be expired whenever you start the type rating, but it can't be expired for more than 12 months. You can't do a sim assessment with an expired IR; it has to be valid. So in my case, I think I had just, was it 2 or 3 months left on my IR before my Ryanair assessment. So it was cutting it a bit close. If anything happened with that assessment, then I was going to have to pay to revalidate it. But yeah, I mean, you just need to keep an eye on it. And 12 months really flies by, like you yourself.
Yeah, because I've also heard, as I say, people have had their ATPLs time out, especially again during the COVID time. I think there was big people giving extra time, but complete their ATPLs, and then there's a certain time limit to get a certain thing done, and if they don't do it in that time, then they have to resit their ATPLs, and that must be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, I think is it like 36 months or something from the last exam to pass my CCL, I think. But I know what some people do is they'll leave one exam. So I think it's 18 months from the first exam to the last exam. So if they know they're not going to be able to afford their CCL, what they do is they do 12 exams and they leave one, and they normally leave communications, and they will then leave that until the 18th month. They'll sit communications and pass it, and then 36 months starts from the 18th month. So you're giving yourself an extra, potentially 6 or 7 months to get that CPL done on top of the 36 that you already have. So like there is ways around it. You kind of have to play the game with it, rather than just smashing them all out in 12 or in 6 months, because then your 36 months starts from then.
Yeah. Okay, so thanks for joining us this evening, and good luck with the flying. And as I say, we'll arrange to meet up in Alicante, and we'll go for our little flight around Benidorm.
Yeah, that'll do. Looking forward to it.
Okay, thanks very much for tonight.
No problem. Thanks very much.
Speak soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.